how does one welcome or acknowledge somebody who's really, really important? How do you know when somebody famous has entered the room? I was at the Mall of America. Catherine was just a little baby, and we were just hanging out at the mall, spending a day with a friend, and it was one of my last days of maternity leave. And all of a sudden, we were just sitting in this very quiet, kind of tucked out of the way place where there was some fast food, and we're just sitting there and eating. And all of a sudden, this gang of screaming teenage girls comes running from down the hall, all together, screaming and shouting, "Ah, ah, ah," like that. Honest to goodness. And they surround this table of young guys, not bad looking, but nothing special. I wouldn't have thought anything. And they surround this table, and they're just, 2 tables away from us. And just go, "Ah, ah, ah, it's him, it's him, it's him, I can't believe it." And I stopped one, and I said, "It's who?" And she said the name so fast, I couldn't even tell what she was saying. Was this English? K2K. And I'm like, what the heck is that? It's a rap group, I guess. Anyway. And to me, these kids looked like they were 16, 17, B2K, that was their name. Anyway, it wasn't a name. I was like, what? Huh? 16, 17-year-old kids. And these were adults, some of them were teenagers. Around here, the crowd kept growing and growing as the more noise they made. And they were surrounding us as well as these people. And we're sitting there, oh, this is interesting. And I asked this adult woman was on her cell phone saying, I can't believe it's him, he's so gorgeous, he's so gorgeous, he's so gorgeous. And I'm like, you're talking about the 16-year-old? She had to be 30. You're kidding me. How do we know when somebody's really important or really special? Crowds have a way of telling you, don't they? Crowds have a way of pointing out the people that they adore, the people that they appreciate. Everybody wants to stop and look and stare and be acknowledged and to praise. But that can kind of be dangerous sometimes, can't it? This poor little table of guys who was trying to eat their lunch had to leave their lunch. People picked up their lunch and leave because of all the scene these women were making. As people know, as Kennedy knows, a crowd can also be dangerous. A crowd can be adoring, but a crowd can also turn on you, can't it? Imagine the danger of this city, Jerusalem, 2,000 years ago. For a couple hundred years now, it's been overtaken by Rome. Jerusalem has always, for all of its history, it's at a very strategic place, right between the Saudi Arabian Peninsula and North Africa. It's a great place. There's the ocean, you have access to the ocean, the Mediterranean, you have access to all these valuable lands. And if you control this strip of land in Galilee, then you control a whole lot of transportation and connection. It's very valuable. It still is today. And so, the Romans saw how valuable this land was, and like lots of people before them, took it over, possessed it. They were nicer than some of the other people. They let the Jews stay there. They let them kind of run their little things, do the temple stuff. As long as they didn't cause any problems, there was peace. But a couple hundred years ago, the Maccabees had rolled up, and there have been revolutions, right? Whenever people are oppressed, people want to be free. They had tried to revolt. They had tried to kick out the Romans, and they had lost and were slaughtered. Peace. In that kind of a situation is tense. Peace. There's always danger. Somebody coming around saying that they're the next king. They're the next leader. It's a very dangerous situation. Jesus obviously knows. He knows what he's coming to Jerusalem to do, and he knows that people see him and will want him to be what they want and not who he is. to flatter the crowds and let them have what they expect. We see a lot of people in our country and that are famous that give us what they think we want, don't they? People who say one thing in public and they do another thing. Didn't we just hear all about this week? You know? And it's happened before. Take Haggard, right? Minister who preaches one thing and behind the doors is doing the opposite, doing the same thing. Where's the integrity? Jesus has choices. He can do what they expect. He can march into Rome with an army. You know, people of villagers have been following him. He can tell them, get your swords, get your weapons, let's go, let's take over Jerusalem again. Kick out the invaders. Or, if he wanted to be the Prince of Peace, you know, he preached that stuff back in Matthew chapter 5. Love your enemies, turn the other cheek. He could do that. He could just sneak in, you know. You don't have to make a big scene about it. Just sneak in, have a good time at Passover, sneak out, peaceful, nothing big, nothing happened. But he doesn't do either, does he? Because Jesus shows us the very epitome of integrity. He is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords, and he is the Prince of Peace, and he will be nothing but those three things. He will be king. He will be worshipped. He will be adored above that government, above those people that have overtaken. He will be above them, and he will not hide it. He will be king above all kings. He will be Lord. A lord is one who owns the land, owns the property. In the olden times, you know, the kings had the allegiance, had the authority, but the loyalty. But the lords were the ones who owned the land, who worked for the king and gave the king their wealth. Jesus is the king who demands our allegiance and our loyalty. And he's the Lord who owns everything. Everything we have and everything we are belongs to Jesus. And he will not turn away. And he will be the Prince of Peace. He will not go in fighting. He will not go in with weapons. Because he preached, love your enemy. Bless those who curse you. Love those who hate you. Do good to those who wish you ill. He will have his integrity. He will not save himself even from death. Because war is never winnable. Jesus is the King of all kings. He demands our allegiance and our loyalty and our lives above all else. And when the people show that, when they take their palms and wave them and acknowledge he is king, well, then those fake kings, those pretend kings, see and they're afraid. They're afraid of his integrity. They're afraid that he really is who he is. And he lets them. He lets them do what they must do to try to keep their power, to try to keep their false titles. He will show his love. He will keep his integrity. And he does it for us. He does it to show us that we have the choices too. We have the choices to choose to follow him in the same path, the same way, acknowledging above all whose we are, that we are united under Jesus Christ, and to acknowledge what law we follow first and foremost. the law of peace from the Prince of Peace. We have the same choices. And we have the same path that we can follow. Christ.